I'm introducing Melvina Scott, a recipient of the 2016 History Maker Award from the African American Museum of Iowa. She's been awarded this honor because she's been shown to be a trailblazer, a change agent in our community, a role model for all people, and especially young people, and she's left a legacy far beyond her time.
I'm Melvina Scott, and I came from Goodman, Mississippi in 1967 to Waterloo, Iowa. And I've been here, will be 50 years on July 5th, 2016. I am the sibling of 8 children, and I have 7 brothers and me. And they kind of shaped me, and in my community that I grew up in kind of shaped me into being the person who I am now. My grandmother was a 6'2" statuette person, and my grandfather was a lieutenant in the army, and he taught my grandmother how to shoot a Winchester because of the civil rights movement. And so white people feared her and black people loved her. And we got involved in almost all of the activities in the 60s. Sit-ins, they allowed us as children to go and participate in the sit-ins, the wait-ins, the march-ins, and so and they would be right there at the meetings when we were planning them, and that was through NACP, Freedom Democratic Party, and the church. And activities was planned for young people to get participated in to change things in Mississippi at the time I was growing up. Village concept was really practiced in Goodman and Mississippi. Everybody looked out for the children in the community. If you did something wrong, by the time you got home, you got a whipping because the party line had already told what you did, where you did it at, and who you did it to. And so you really kind of practice being a good person, and if you didn't practice getting a good person, you suffer the consequences. And I also grew up in the United Methodist Church, and all of my family and my mothers and grandmothers and father's friends were members of the United Methodist Church. This church, every summer, young people who were leaders in the church went to Russ College, which was a Methodist college, and they taught young people how to become leaders. And what my leadership role I chose was to teach young people Sunday school. And so they take you to Russ College, and you went to camp to learn how to teach young people in the Bible. I figure God always puts you where you need to be when you need to be, and for some reason, when during the civil rights movement, and young people were going north and east and west and further north, I landed in Waterloo, and I stayed in Waterloo. And July 5th of 2016, I'll be here 50 years. And during those 50 years, I've met some amazing people who were changing Waterloo at the time I came here. And they were already participating in the community. For instance, my cousin, and she was involved in the community. She was president of the Women's Civic Club at the time. And then Jessica Cosby Center was just starting, and she was also president of that group. Jimmy Porter was a community enablers and working at Raft Packing Company and a part of the union, and he'd also started community enablers when I got here. So it was natural. I was active in Mississippi in the community, and so when I got to Waterloo, it was natural for me to just transition into the activities that was going on here at the time. Well, I've been active in the church. Payne Church we had a pastor at Payne Church who was sent to Waterloo because of his skills as a pastor to change what was going on in Waterloo with African Americans. And that was to make sure they had quality jobs, and because at that time they was maids and janitors and stuff like that, but there weren't any jobs being taken by in large by African Americans at John Deere's and all of the manufacturing industry here, and so he got together groups of people in the church and other churches pull other church members in to start Jimmy Porter. Because of the Enabler's office, he was a member of Payne, and so he was already active as a community enabler. So, in the union, the Raf Packing House Union, 838 Union, he pulled those people in to help with the change. Monroe Stevenson and Willie O'Neill was also working in politics, and I. When I went and got my BA degree at the University of Northern Iowa, I got it in community organization, and they gave me an opportunity to use what I'd learned at the college to organize A. Phil Ranyall's Get Out to Vote activities. And what my role was is to put people in the street knocking on doors and getting people out to vote. Well, I actually learned how to be a team player at an early age because I started playing basketball at third grade in Mississippi, and it teaches you team skills because the coaches in Mississippi, even third grade through high school, you did not play individual balls. You learn how to play with a team, and by learning how to play a team in basketball, you take that to the community after you go out and work in the community. You learn how to get the right people on your team. Well, it helped me organize people to get out to vote. And then also when I worked with organizations, for instance, United Sisters, Blackout County, working with S.C. Bulls at the YWCA, it helped me get that. And right now this is 37 years that we've been in organization. So it helped me to pull the right people in to get that organization going. I received the Sisterhood Award for getting and holding the first conference in 1998 for United Sisters. And that was because we had one of the most successful conferences. We had over 250 people who attended from 7 different states. And we were able to raise funds and give out scholarships in the community to non-traditional women who were going back to college and pursuing their degrees in college. Well, Waterloo is an oasis of greatness because when I came in the mid '60s, we were doing some amazing things in terms of change. Waterloo was a place for people to, even nationally, and I've known some, even CNN and NBC nationally came in to look at what we were doing politically in Waterloo to get people elected, to national presidents elected. The President Carter, when he did the peanut brigade in Waterloo, nobody thought he'd ever get elected president. Barack Obama, even in Waterloo, he actually when he came to Waterloo and went to Central High School, nobody knew he was going to be president of the United States because he wasn't very well known. So that's why I say Waterloo is an oasis of greatness, because we're able to come together around an issue and then work to make it a significant change. Well, I guess my greatest joy in developing programs is preserving the history of African Americans in the Cedar Valley. And in order to develop a program and get a recognition, we had to. I was taught in my education, you need a brand. You need something that people always recognize. And the first thing we did was a book, which was our heritage. It's a collection of African Americans from early 1900s to 1945, and then the other brand was to come up with what a campus, an African American Historic Museum campus would look like, and this was it. And then in order to come up with a building, this was an architect, Tom Gardner, and God rest his soul, he passed away several years ago, but he developed a prototype of what the African American Historic and Cultural Museum building would look like. As I said, we developed a brand, and this is our brand. Anything you see, and this was the Kwanzaa celebration that I started. And we some 12 years ago, I started a Kwanzaa celebration every year in December, right after Christmas is over. And then the other project was African American Voices of the Cedar Valley. Even though I just call it Preserving African American History, I got a Humanities Iowa grant through the African American Historical and Cultural Museum, and then I had to find a professor to take it over, and that's when I met Dr. Ching and Dr. David Jackson, and they branded this project as African American Voices of the Cedar Valley. We've done some 20 of these. Okay. Yeah, 20, and we actually have 10 of them in prints like this. Right now, Dr. Ching and I are working on the geography department actually canvassed the old historic African American, and they call it the Black Triangle is what they call it now. The boundaries was Mobile in Waterloo to the railroad to the south in Waterloo to Sumner Street on the northeast of Waterloo, and then 4th Street. Okay. And there's some. The geography department did some 612 addresses in that triangle, and we're in the process of dropping history in those addresses. That means we created a map of each one of those addresses, and then collecting the history of pictures and names to businesses to drop into that map. In 2004, we did a walking tour, which the geography department actually helped create a walking tour, and at each historic site in that triangle, we actually stopped and people gave the history of those sites. Geography students was able to get a 1-hour credit. Something that I'm hoping we can duplicate and make that a part of the historic places in Waterloo. I've been board members for the YWCA, board member for the City of Waterloo's budget review, state board member for the Women's Conference, International Women's Conference. A board member for my cousin Benny Walker had a daughter who was born with a muscular dystrophy, and so I was on the review board for nursing homes, and one other thing that's still going is consumer counseling, where people who want to buy a home or having bad credit problems started one of the founding board members of Consumer Credit Counseling. That's still going in Waterloo. And then some of the other things that have really been instrumental in helping keep going is the Gates Park Youth Basketball League, for helping young people develop their skills. So I've always tried to develop something that young people can say that I'm from Waterloo, and this is the kind of things we've got going on in Waterloo. I went back after I retired from the federal government, the Census Bureau. I went and got my teaching substitute teaching authorization, and I've been teaching young people from pre-K through 12 in the Waterloo schools. I've been a foster parent. I've got some 10 foster kids, both African American and Caucasian foster children. And small people doing big things. That means Jimmy Porter's and the board members started KBBG. He came from a little town in Mississippi, Tuckweiler, Mississippi, and came to Waterloo and started KBBG. Willa Mae Wright came from Goodman, Mississippi, and she was the first elected city council person in African American to be elected to the city council in Waterloo. Anna Mae Weems, who changed the history of unemployment. Her father came from Durant, Mississippi, and I could go on because we've had lots of people who were small people that have done big things in Waterloo. Every time I make a milestone in my life, I came from Mississippi some 50 years ago. Actually, on July 5th of 2016, it will be 50 years because I didn't land in Iowa. Iowa landed in me. That means I've stayed here. And I did leave a couple of times, and each time I only stayed gone at least a month and came back. I think God placed me in Waterloo because I have a strong faith and a strong belief that African Americans have a significant contribution that they've made to their community, and I think God put me in touch with Ada Treadwell and Dr. Ruth Anderson to make sure that that story is told. I want young people to know that they stand on some tremendous shoulders of people who shaped the history, and they happen to be African Americans in Waterloo. I wanted to be an example so young people would know that preserving history is important and making history is important. What I want young people to remember me for is that I set an example and tried to make Waterloo the best place that they could raise their families.